So we're going to talk today a little bit about Dungeons and Dragons, specifically DnD 5e, 5th edition, which is the newest edition produced. It's really accessible. They've kept everything that's good about the rules, but they also slimmed them down a little bit, so it really fits the structure of kind of collaborative and narrative storytelling instead of buying lots of books and memorizing a lot of technical information. So it's anybody can do it. We recently got into it, and Lulu is going to show here her kind of note-taking technique for D&D. So this is her creating a new character by the name of Barbie the Quixotic, which is clever because she goes by Barbecue for short, Barbecue. A Goliath. Goliaths are these big beefy boys. She ripped a picture from Fern Gully for it. That they're kind of they live in mountain clans, and they often have a title in their name. So like Cragdor the Destroyer or whatever. She is Barbecue though. Have to fix the hair there. Her character is canonically silver haired. So. Lulu's been using, she's by far the more creative one in this relationship. She uses a lot of interesting software on her iPad, and she takes a lot of notes, draws a lot of sketches and pictures, which is great, by the way, because when I'm playing alongside her, I can go back and reference all of her cool little sketches later on. So it's really bringing my experience to life as well. One thing so as we've been kind of getting going, we've been reviewing a lot of ideas and best practices and what works for us about how to make this game as kind of fun as possible. And Lou is actually going to show a little bit of that here. So one thing that I certainly recommend when you're creating a character in this game, there's a technical side to it. You need to choose what class you're going to be, what race you're going to be, etc. But from a role-playing standpoint, and by the way, if the word roleplay scares you, I don't dress in costume or do funny voices when I play. It's just, I'm using that to mean kind of behaving the way your made-up character might, as opposed to the way you, the player, might. So there might be a situation where, I, Luke, realize, hey, it'd probably be dumb to do that because it's not going to benefit me, but my character, for whatever reason, would. And I'll try to remember that and make choices that way because it makes it more fun for everybody. In this particular case, Lou is showing that she's creating kind of a progress marker for reaching her goals. She's envisioned several goals for Barbie, kind of long-standing aspirations, Barbie's dreams, and she's going to keep progress of that as she goes. So our immediate goal in the campaign might be our DM, Dungeon Master, the kind of referee and narrator who runs the game, tells us, okay, you're in a cave, you're fighting goblins. And maybe that has nothing to do with Barbie's long-term plans, but as we continue throughout the campaign and reach new areas and accomplish things, she's going to be working towards her major aspirations, which in this case, her character, Barbie, is clanless. Barbie's clan was destroyed, so Barbie is trying to recreate that clan, which is actually hilarious. One of Barbie's plans about how to do that is have tons of girlfriends and many bastards and just make babies all over the place, which is hilarious, and it's going to affect the way that she plays that character in game, the way she role plays with non-player characters. I think this is a really good way to maintain that sort of character immersion. Again, thinking, I've made up this character Barbie. What would Barbie want to do? Well, does it advance the goal of, restoring the clan? Then, yeah, maybe. And maybe it would be something stupid for a player to do. Like, they know that if they seduce the mayor's daughter, that would be a huge problem for us because we want to do business in this town for a while. But Barbie is going to do it anyway because Barbie restoring the clan is more important than meeting whatever goals the DM has given us. That might sound, counterintuitive, or it might sound like it's going to make it hard to progress in the game, but it's actually absolutely a thing that makes the game fun. So I highly recommend playing to your character. And that's going to include flaws. I think a common pitfall for new players is they want their character to be good at everything and great in every way and good at magic and good at fighting and good at talking to people and really handsome or beautiful and rich, and they just want to be the best at everything. It's actually more fun to kind of suck at some stuff and to have some like emotional problems, some damage, or some nervous twitches, or maybe you're a kleptomaniac, or whatever. That's going to advance the gameplay in a more interesting way than, oh, I'm just the best at everything and I succeed at everything. That's actually incredibly boring. So yeah, try to come up with a lifelike character with realistic motivations based on whatever backstory you've come up with. And that doesn't mean you have to be super serious. I mean, Barbie has no clan. That sounds like the beginning of a grimdark, solo adventure. And Lulu's turned it into, so Barbie wants to fuck a lot, which is kind of hilarious, and it's going to be really fun while we play. Moving on, having created some version of an ambition tracker, there's a few other things that Lulu likes to keep track of, and these can be different for everybody. You don't have to follow this recipe of note-taking exactly, but I think it'll be fun if you do, because everybody likes to know that they're making progress, and you're going to have a concrete picture of that. So right here, for example, ambitious, huh? Four bullets. Wow. Lulu's going to be keeping track of all of her various girlfriends as she progresses through the game as Barbie. Over on this side, that looks like a sword. I'm betting right now it's going to be a kill tracker. These are the things that are important to Lulu. She wants to know, Barbie wants to know, where all of his lovers are and how many things he's killed. So that can be a little bit, you, the player, what would you like to keep track of? It can be a little bit your character, which is, the two are the same to some extent. So, what kind of things do you think would be cool to, or that would be important for your character to remember? And, you can make as many of these sheets as you need to. These are just a few examples. Let's see down here. We've got, legendary items. All right, so yeah, maybe, throughout the course of the campaign, we hear about, such and such lord has a sword that eats souls. And, maybe we're nowhere near that place or that degree of skill to where we can do anything about that, but maybe we want to come back to it later. And what's this one? Events. Okay, so major events that have occurred. The destruction of a town, or such and such a faction taking over a region, or
sparkling moment.
Yes, or a sparkling moment for us, maybe. Maybe we've triumphed over a major enemy, or we've discovered something important. And, the limits are your own imagination, and that's what's really fun about D&D. The structure is that you've got players, and you have the DM. And the DM functions almost more like a referee. They're going to create situations for you and then dictate to you somewhat, what skills you need to surpass certain challenges. But the choices, what you do, is entirely up to you. So it really is, it's collaborative storytelling. It's living in your imagination. This is another good thing to do. Keep track of your background. So I oversimplified it a ton with Barbie, that a clanless Goliath that's trying to have a lot of sex. But you might have something incredibly elaborate in there, like, so-and-so was a child when the village was attacked, and blah 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 blah. You can lean into fantasy cliches for that, and I think everyone's familiar with some traditional hero stories, whether from TV or books or anything, Child of Prophecy, things like that. But and that's a good starting point for your character. As you play, I think you'll find that it's going to develop a lot on its own. I think another thing that tends to happen, especially with new players in D&D, is they'll meet each other for the first time everyone sits down to play the game. And, someone will be like, oh, I'm a dwarf from this place, and this is my story. And they'll launch in this huge monologue because they've been thinking a lot about their backstory, and they want to reveal it to the characters. I advise a little bit against that. I think it's really, really good to have that backstory. It's really good to communicate that backstory to your DM so they know about it, and they can, pull from it and bring it into the story and bring your character to life a little bit. But I think you will enjoy revealing that organically a lot more than you would just, having this soliloquy at the beginning of the game that everyone has to take turns telling about their whole life story. That's also doesn't feel very natural. That's not the way people talk to each other, I would submit, even in a fantasy universe. Like this one. So, as you sit down to play, Lulu likes to take specific notes for each session, and those notes don't have to be bullet points and lists of names and locations and what do we do and what did I pick up off the ground today. Lulu, for example, likes to do a lot of sketches and draw pictures of things that have happened, which I love. I have absolutely no artistic ability. I can't do that. But it's really fun for me to even go back and look at Lulu's notes and, see a page filled up with scribbled drawings of goblins and trees and broken crates and, whatever it is, whatever we bumped into that day that Lulu thought was worth illustrating. What she's writing down, though, are a few examples of things that are kind of hard to remember and are probably worth writing down. Names is a huge one. It is very challenging to remember the names of all these characters that you're not actually meeting in real life. If the DM offhand says, oh, and you met a dwarf named Gundren, well, that's great, but who's going to remember that a month later if it takes you that long to sit down again? So it's a good idea to write down location names and NPC names. NPC stands for non-player character. Basically any living creature in the game verse, anything that the DM has made up. This was our first session, so Lou is also making a note of who we're playing with, their name and their class, which is going to be useful later on. Especially, it's good when you're traveling with a group of people to know who's good at what. So, maybe you're a beefy boy like Barbecue here, and you happen to know that you've got a sneaky guy in your group, as we do, and the situation will come up where you'd like to know what's going on in the bushes over there. Maybe you'll say, hey, so-and-so, our sneaky guy, can you go scout that out? Because I know if I try, I'd actually be shitty at it. Yeah, this is a map of Faerun, which is enormous. We're pulling on decades of creation. This D&D has been around for a really, really long time, and it's been built on. There were books, so many books. The game itself. There's forums and websites now. There's a couple of cartoon TV shows. So, but Lulu's taking a note of Faerun, which is the Forgotten Realms kind of standard continent with a lot of known cities and locations that are referenced in other D&D games, board games, TV shows, whatever. And specifically where we are starting out, which is up there in that corner on the Sword Coast near the city of Neverwinter. All right, so she's taking some notes on, and this is good to do while you're playing, actually. So this is maybe something that you're not going to reference back to later so much, but if you're in the middle of a fight and the DM says, okay, there's 2 goblins in the trees with arrows about 40 feet away, and 2 goblins are running at you with swords, by the time your turn comes around, if you haven't been keeping track of where everybody's been moving, what they've been doing, and who's where, it might be good to kind of just jot that down as you go. Here's a small submap. So not every DM functions the same way. They may or may not provide images for you. They may provide things very different from a map. I have a friend who DMs always very impressed with his creative ideas, and he'll, like, between sessions, he'll throw a limerick at them, he'll drop a clue for his characters, be like, yeah, just think about that next time we play. So he's kind of great at keeping the fantasy alive, even when they're not actively playing. A map is a good resource, though. You can find tons of maps online. If you're running a campaign, or if you're in a campaign that's utilizing a pre-written adventure, a lot of those exist at this point. They're pretty good. It's a really good place for a first-time DM to start, because they can read the book, learn the information, and 100% improvise as much as they want. They're not stuck to just kind of reading a choose-your-own-adventure story to players. Like, it's way more immersive and creative than that, but it gives you a really, really solid baseline that you can use to kind of craft your own adventure. So, I mean, I'd recommend that for a first-time DM. Heck, I'd recommend that for a veteran DM if they don't have an idea in mind of anything new that they want to try, and they want to run a new adventure for some buddies. Go ahead and just pick up a book. They're very well done, at least the ones that I've encountered. And you can often start with a book and work through maybe not even the whole thing before the adventure kind of spins off into a new direction, just based on what your characters do or what you as a DM decide for them. Here we go. Kill the goblin in this one, so she's got to go back and make a note of that. Did you say punch eye? Oh, you're putting down how it died too. Very good. Alright, I think we're going to look at a different tool here. Okay. So, we use DnD Beyond, which is a fantastic site. They are not paying us anything for this. This is not a product placement or a sponsored ad. It actually is just a super useful tool. It has, compiled everything digitally in a way that makes it super accessible. So, especially for new players, it's a really easy way to create a character or keep track of your character as you play. One thing that I will note, they are a company trying to make money. So when you go to D&D Beyond for the first time, you're not going to have access to a ton of content. Certainly enough to play the game if you want to, but if you're a big fan of options, here's an example of Lulu doing a sketch based off of a goblin image she pulled offline, which I love that. But yeah, if you're you want to be able to choose from 20 different races when you're creating a new character, you are going to have to buy the book content. Basically, the way it'll work is all the books from Wizards of the Coast, who own the D&D intellectual property and produce it, those are loaded as digital resources on D&D Beyond. You don't have access to all of them, just like the basic player's handbook when you create an account, which the accounts are free. But if you want to access, say you want to play as a Kalishtar, which is like a psychic person, they're a species that's in the Wayfarer's Guide to Eberron book, because they come from the Eberron setting. Well, you have to buy that book in order to access that character. There's probably easy ways to look it up online or pirate it online, but support D&D Beyond. They're doing great things. I would love for there to be more economic incentive for more companies to get into D&D, because I want to see more of D&D. And here Lulu's showing some examples of notes she's been taking of a different campaign that we're in just as we've been progressing. You can see none of this is going to make any sense out of context, but imagine how much fun it is for us to kind of reference this later and go back through our adventures and remember things that happened and have the kind of visual aid to do it. I recommend that you get someone like Lulu into your group when you're playing the game. Yeah, and there's some notes from our first session where we fought some goblins.